And then throughout my journey, I always share the story of Jonah. I was Jonah. I was that stubborn person. And I knew that the sentence I had, my guidelines didn't qualify for the sentence I received. But I remember after years of fighting, even though the life sentences was off, I was trying to fight the 55 years. And one day I was sitting in the law library and a guy said to me, he said, man, he said, I don't know how you still here or how they didn't grant that motion. He said, I don't know what it is, but he said, maybe God trying to get your attention. And until you listen to what he had to say, you going to be here. He just out of the blue just said that to me. And I thought about it, but once I started to listen to God, things got better for me, even in that situation.
Welcome, everyone, to the Spiritual Forum. I'm so glad you're here. I just got back from leading my retreat, and it was just such a wonderful experience. I'm glad to be back on my podcast, and today I have such an interesting guest. His name is Oswald Newbold II, and he's certified in mediation and conflict resolution and is the founder of Libra-Life International, a nonprofit advancing justice for marginalized communities and people impacted by the justice system worldwide. Earlier this year, he received the Second Chance Hero Award for his leadership. In 2022, Oswald co-authored The Joseph Anointing: From Prison to Prosperity. Today he returns in a new book called Breaking Chains, Building Futures: Pathways to Redemption, Education, and Excellence. The book is a powerful collection of stories from 14 justice-impacted individuals sharing how education and mentorship fueled their success. Welcome, Oswald.
Hey, thank you for having me.
It's wonderful to have you. And before we start recording, you said you were sitting in West Palm Beach, Florida. Is that where you are?
Yes, I'm actually in the sub. I'm in Riviera Beach, but it's right next to West Palm Beach.
Okay. Enjoying beautiful
Yes,
sunshine.
87 degrees today.
Oh, that's nice. We're in the 50s here in Wisconsin.
Yes.
Okay, we have weather envy. So I just want to start with a few rapid fire questions so we can get to know you better. Then we're going to go into your spiritual story. So
Yes.
I guess my first question is, do you have someone in your life that particularly inspired you that you could share who that is?
Uh, I've had so many people, different people inspire me in my lifetime. I can't point to one specific person, but there's a collective of people that inspired me in different ways to do different things. That could come down to my family members. It can come from people in the community. Um, One of the people I say that probably gave me my most confidence was actually my high school band director because, yeah, it was a lot of things I thought I couldn't do in life, and he said, hey, you're smart enough, you will be able to do it. And I didn't really get it then, but I still share stories about him right now today.
I love
So
that. I think that, I
yeah,
mean, it just shows how a person can influence someone, that a high school
yes,
band teacher, that's amazing. I remember my high school band teacher too.
yeah. And he was great because one of the stories I share that he always used to tell us, he said, set your expectations high, make them larger than life. And he say you want to aim high to reach that high expectation. And he said if you fall shy of that line up there, you will still fall in a good space because you were aiming so high. He say, but if you set a average bar or a mediocre bar, if you achieve it, you just did average or mediocre. And if you don't reach it, you know you didn't even do average. So that's not good. He say aim high. And that's why I go like I do in life.
I think that's wonderful. I agree. Set the bar really high. It's not like we all have to make it there, but if we don't set it high, we're just going to be groveling along on the bottom. So, really good advice
Exactly.
by him. That's great.
Yeah.
Can you share something that brings you joy?
Uh, my family. My family brings me joy. Being able to wake up every day. Like I always tell people, it's a blessing to be able to wake up and get up. A lot of people wake up, but everybody can't get up. So when we able to wake up and still get up, that's even more of a blessing at that time. So I'm thankful for every day.
I completely agree. Every day is a gift, even if life is really, really rough. But you can tell us about that later. Last, I'm going to give you the opportunity to tell us what you love about your name, Oswald.
Imagine that. So when I was growing up, I hate to use the word hate, but I hated my name when I was young. Because I'm gonna be honest, I'm the black kid with the name Oswald. That came with a lot of jokes, a lot of ridicule, and hey, what was your mom and daddy thinking about? And my dad has the name Oswald also. But going through life, I got older, and they were saying names have meanings. And one day, I just decided to research and look what my name mean. And I looked, and I was like, whoa, my name Oswald means divine power of God, God power. And I was like, "Ooh." So that's why back in when I was growing up, then people still call me Oz right now today. And I didn't like Oswald. I felt Oz was a little more socially acceptable. But now I proudly tell people my name Oswald because it means divine power of God. And when I look at it, God already had a plan for me. I just didn't see it. The name that I thought was a burden was really a blueprint for me.
That is such an amazing story. I agree. I love looking at the names of the meaning underneath names. And what a powerful
Right.
name that is. That's
Yeah.
amazing. So you wake up to that and it's like, you gotta live into that now that you know it, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Oswald, divine power of God. Can you share your story? I know it's fabulous. I know it's fascinating, and I know it's also very spiritually driven. So, what would you like to tell us about?
Ah, it depends on where I start from. Just I'm a fast track a lot. I was born to teenage parents in the 1970s. They were young. So you got two teenage parents trying to raise a child when they still trying to understand life. They haven't reached full adulthood. But I can say my parents loved me. They instilled my grandparents was in my life. My dad was an only child. My mom had three siblings, but she didn't grow up with them all. She only grew up with one brother. But I had a good life. So just with that, with that said, I was just going through life. But by the time I became a teenager, I was rebellious and started to thinking I knew everything in life, and life just started to go take its own little its own little route. But I think I need to dial back and just like share some things. I also went through an era in the 1980s where crack cocaine took over
Mhm.
in America. So that was a time where it really infested the neighborhood. I was in neighborhoods that was good working class neighborhoods was impacted by that crack epidemic. And being young, I started hustling. I didn't realize that I was getting angry in life. You see, one of the dangers about being an angry person is when you don't know you're angry.
Mm.
Then when I got older, I realized I thought I was angry, but it wasn't angry. I was hurt because I had saw some things that was going on with my parents that I felt should have been better. And you never know what other people are going through, but I just went through that struggle. So it's easier for me to talk about now, but in my youth I couldn't decipher the different emotions and why what was going on. By then I just would say that I was a angry teenager. I went off to college, and by the time I got in college, that's when I ran into the justice system. I'm a criminal justice major, minor in political science, and then I end up in the criminal justice system.
Mm.
And even though I didn't have no death case, I still got at the age of 19. Not at the age of 19, I got in trouble. At the age of 20, I was sentenced to life in prison.
Oh my gosh.
I was sentenced to life, and 15 years in prison at the age of 20. Yes, and I always tell people in Florida, When you get sentenced to life in prison in Florida, the judge essentially say you will be in a pine box when you leave prison. So I had that weight on my shoulders, but thankfully, God was with me. I won an appeal, and the judge took the life sentences off of me, but he gave me 40 years in prison, followed by 15 years in prison. So I had a 55-year sentence to do. And it took me 25 years, 1 month, 13 days to complete that sentence. I was 19 years old when I went in. I came home when I was 44. I just turned 53 in September. I've been home almost 9 years now.
That
Yes, ma'am.
that is incredible. What was the conviction? What was the life in prison conviction?
For a attempt murder case and a burglary case.
Okay.
I walked in. I was in a pretty bad case right then.
Okay. All right.
Yes, but a spiritual side to that is the other individual involved actually came to see me in prison and we made amends. Yes.
Okay.
So it's yes, ma'am.
Well, I definitely want to hear about that. So when you say the under individual involved, is that the victim or is that a
Victim.
okay.
Yes. Who would have been the victim? Yes.
Okay. All right. All right. So wow. So you were like 19. Is that what you said? 19.
I was 19,
Okay.
ma'am.
You got yourself in trouble and
Yes.
and it okay. So it was burglary and attempted, but
Yeah.
and then that gave you life in prison. Wow.
Yeah, so that will also lead to my anger
Yes.
because you had people with death cases wasn't even going to prison with that much time.
Right, right.
And so it made me feel, was it sentencing disparities? Was it because of my race? Was it because the area that I grew up in or came from? So many different things. So I'm a young person looking at so many people who been in and out of prison, coming in here with a slap on the wrist, and then I get hammered my first time through. So I had to fight through. It took me a long time to like realize that even at the end of the day, and even though I might feel that things were wrong, life is about choices. So you have to make good choices in your life so that you won't be dealt with unjustly. And then throughout my journey, I always share the story of Jonah. I was Jonah. I was that stubborn person. And I knew that the sentence I had, my guidelines I didn't qualify for the sentence I received. But I remember after years of fighting, even though the life sentences was off, I was trying to fight the 55 years. And one day I was sitting in the law library and a guy said to me, he said, man, he said, I don't know how you still here or how they didn't grant that motion. He said, I don't know what it is, but he said, maybe God trying to get your attention. And until you listen to what he had to say, you going to be here. He just out of the blue just said that to me. And I thought about it, but once I started to listen to God, things got better for me, even in that situation. And that was just part of my spiritual journey. I will say that I grew up in a household that where I went to church. I even used to play the drums in church as a kid. So I accepted Christ in my life at the age of 9. So I was no stranger to it, but then I went astray in my own ways as I got older. But that's why it was easy for me to come back to a spiritual foundation because it was always there.
It was in your heritage and your upbringing. It sounds like the prodigal son, leaving home,
Yeah,
leaving home,
yeah,
leaving, your connection with God, leaving home. We all do it. We get really as far
yeah,
away as possible from our divine nature, from spirit, and then you're kind of stuck when you're in prison. You're like the prodigal son was eating with the pigs, which is
yeah.
really a low place for that culture. And then you come home. So that was really an interesting moment in prison when that person said that to you.
It was, and I had been in maybe probably about around 15 years then, roughly 14, 15 years. Had been fighting just that long. And well, I didn't like it when he said it, but it gave me something to think about, like for real. And once I just like embrace, well, I asked the question, well, what is God trying to tell me? Or what is God telling me that I don't see? And what it was God telling me, let go of all that bitterness. Because remember, I said I was mad at the system. I was at one time. I got mad at my granddaddy because I was supposed to go to the U.S. Army. I signed up for the Army. I was going into the Army 2 weeks after I graduated from high school. But my granddaddy fought in the Korean War. He did not want me to serve in the military. So he said, you need to go get a college education. So in my mind, when I got in trouble, I was like, I was supposed to be in the military and not in college anyway. So my young thing just deflecting. But I had life comes back to choices. And once I've realized that life is about choices, things got better. But that was just a part of my journey.
I think that's very normal that we go back and when we find ourselves in a bad place that we go back to, if I'd only done this, if I'd only done that.
Yeah.
And then we project our blame onto somebody who caused us to do this. And it's really hard to take responsibility. But you spent 15 years, this is so interesting to me, 15 years resentful and angry and bitter. And some people spend a whole lifetime, never come out of it. So, thank God that you had that encounter that caused you to wake up and see maybe there's something else for me. But I am curious. 15 years is a long time to live in bitterness in a place like prison. So how do you make it through every day?
And understand, even though I was bitter, that wasn't like my character all
Okay.
day.
Yeah.
I still just had that in my subconscious mind,
Okay.
and it was in my heart a little bit, but it was not the dominant force that I walk with every day. I can't live like that.
Yeah.
But it was that little bit I was holding on to that was holding me back.
So that's important for people to know too, because you don't have to be overwhelmed with anger to have it really impact you. So
Yes.
then now, after 15 years, now you're asking, what does God want from me? And then how does your life turn after that?
One of the things how they say, wisdom comes with age. So as I was getting older inside of the prison system, I was also losing family members that was getting older. And it was when my last grandparent passed is when I really a light bulb went off in my head, like the life you left won't be the one you return to. You don't know life without your grandmother over there or your granddaddy over there. And even though my parents was living, it was like a stark reality, like, hey man, life is really going to be on you when you come out of here. So now what are you going to do? So I was really just looking and thinking about how am I going to legally like really be able to survive, come out and be somebody in life and keep it moving.
Okay. And so then you had like what, 5 more years after that?
I did 10 more because I did 25 years. So
Okay.
I the first 15. So after that, but that last 10 years was totally different than my first 15. Um, I moved through prison. I stopped looking at prison as prison and started looking at it like a college. Started going to take classes, went to going to take self betterment programs. I went to becoming a facilitator, pouring into others. And even the work I do now that helping others, that started when I was still behind the gates and walls in the classrooms or even just on the rec field, somebody, hey man, I just need to talk about some stuff. And we walked the track. So helping others started for me inside. And always tell people, I didn't discover my gift. Other people discovered my gift for me. They had to point it out. And it was like, hey, you good with people. When you get out, you need to do something that deal with people. Now, even though I'm doing this interview with you, I'm technically really I'm an introvert. My professional work forced me to be extroverted, but by nature I'm an introvert, and I kind of that's just how I am. So for me, it was scary for me to have to think about I'm going to talk to a bunch of strangers to help them. I just couldn't see it in the beginning. But then people kept seeing me and would say, "Hey man, you good with people. You need to do something with people when you get out." And when multiple people told me the same thing, and they didn't know each other, and they kept coming to that same conclusion. I'm like, hmm, what do they see that I don't see? Yeah, so God was sending angels to deliver a message to me.
God was sending angels, and each of us could be angels for other people too. And so we really need to
Yeah,
speak up when we see the gifts in another person because they may not see that for themselves. So they were wonderful
right.
gifts for you to point out your gift. And so you really had a
Yeah.
ministry in prison then that last 10 years. You had your own ministry.
You could say that it definitely was, and it still is. I go into the prisons that I once did time at. I actually go in there now to help others. So it don't come full circle.
Wow. All right, so let's
Yes,
talk about when you got out because you became a mediator. And I'd love to hear
yes.
about the work that you do. And it sounds like you go back to the prison, at least you did in the past. I'd love to hear about how you used your faith coming out of the prison system, knowing that you had this gift with people. And because there's so much recidivism, there's a lot of trouble with people going back, but you kept going
Right.
forward. So I'd love to hear about how you did that.
Well, one of the things I tell people, even when you don't know what you're going to do when you get out, the first thing you have to make up in your mind is, I'm not coming back to this place no matter what. You have to have that with conviction in your heart that you're not coming back. And once you are determined not to come back, you will put all your energy into doing the right things so you could succeed out there. So for me, failure wasn't an option. And I had said to myself, I'd rather be broken living under a bridge than to be in prison with everything. So, and I know because under the bridge, I could get from under that bridge. But if I'm inside of a prison, I can't just walk out the gates at my will. I had the will to be able to do better for myself out there. And that comes back to the preparation for that was going to classes. I went and picked up a computer class. I went to taking vocational trades. Actually, the programs that helped me the most were probably like the leadership programs, the programs that made us think with the cognitive, like our thinking patterns. And those were the ones that really did me the best because you could go get degrees, you could go get vocational trades, you could get skills. If your heart and mind is not right, you're going to mess up everything you got. So that for me, it was just was getting my heart in the right place that has really, because I was really willing to humble myself. I wasn't going to come out to try to keep up with the Joneses. I just was going to be thankful for having that chance at life again and making the most of it and go about it the right way. That's the way I walked out the gate.
You are an extremely inspiring person. I hope you know
Yeah.
that. I think this overcoming of the mental prison that you could put yourself
Yeah.
in, because you could
Yeah.
stay in anger or you could stay in the inequity of it all, and you could stay in victimhood, like all this stuff happened to you, and it did happen to you.
Yeah.
So there are some
Right.
inequities, and yet you're able to, I guess, with your faith and faith in yourself and God, and your messenger is encouraging. You're able to move forward, and I'm really really in awe. I really really think you're an amazing person, Oswald. So thank you for sharing all that.
Yes.
Wow. So how did you get into mediation then?
Actually, I became certified when I was still locked up.
Okay.
Um, so many things happened around the 15th year. My last grandparent passed away. I realized I was getting older. I started taking classes, but also I took that mediation around that 15th year. What happened? They had created a program where they wanted to give prisoners an option rather than resorting to violence. They give you a way to work out issues, prisoner disputes. So that's where it started for me. And in that environment, that's a dangerous environment. But the the ironic part is I got the certification, but the institution felt it was too much power for a prisoner to have. So they wouldn't even install the program. And now gang violence has gotten so bad in the Florida prison system. Now they need an outlet where the prisoners won't resort to violence. You got to give them. It always come down to miscommunication. You got to give people a safe space to be able to talk it out. because violence is usually the last resort. It's not the first resort. And so it started right there. And then when I came home, I didn't immediately use it. Well, naturally, I was using it because I had the gift. So I just know how to re- resolve conflict naturally. But then I realized I had a certification that I wasn't using, and I looked into how could I use this. And I saw a program where it's a program that it's a landlord tenant, but it's also designed to prevent homelessness, especially with people who have children with them. And I've been doing that program for a few years now. So that's why I've been using the mediation. But what I'm about to do now is create a mediation program for teens and young adults that give them an outlet rather than them resorting to violence, to be able to learn how to be able to sit down and talk it out, or be able to help others get through their hard times without resorting to violence. So for me, mediation is what I want to use for in the rather than using hostility, violence, and anger. Let's use a tool where we could communicate, have some empathy and compassion, use some love, and everybody go and have a good day after that.
So, do you find that teenagers interested in this? I know there's an allure for the whole gang violence thing. There's an allure, and so how do you draw them into let's talk about this?
But here's one of the things. Let's start with gangs. People didn't come out of their mother womb wanting to be a gang member.
Absolutely
That was a
not.
learned behavior.
Right.
That was a learned behavior. Something I learned about gangs when I was in too. I'll see people in the daytime, they gang members, they tough, they talking all this rhetoric in the air. But at nighttime, when the lights go out, I see them by the light reading the entrepreneur magazine or Fortune 500 or how to start your own business. So they have other aspirations than gang banging, and that's how I know that they want more than just that. That's something that they attach to, and then sometimes even when they want to leave it, they don't know how to separate from it. But for me, I don't look down on them. I look for what's good in them and strive to get them to build on what's good. But going back to the part when you were saying about like trying to get teenagers involved in it, think about social media. Social media is so big. Why? Because everybody want to have a voice. I want to feel that something I said, somebody liked it, or somebody got something from it. So if you give a person a opportunity to have a voice, a meaningful voice that gets to something that means something, even though it might not be all on social media, it means a lot to them because the most thing that people are fighting for is to find a voice in life and to know what I say, hey, is correct and it means something to somebody besides just me.
I just I love this so much. I think that so many of the ways that we divide ourselves and look at each other as the other, and whether it's political groups or racial groups or any kind of groups, that at our core we all want the same stuff, and you boil it down to we want to be seen, we want to be heard, we want a voice. These are the things that
Yeah,
we each want. And you're right, we're ranting about it like on social media, and we're ranting about it in the
yeah.
streets. And if we just kind of sat down quietly with each other, I see there's so much potential in our hearts opening and just being a space of listening and receiving, and also being seen and heard. So that's what you're doing for these kids.
Yes, yes, but letting them find their voice because a lot of them being raised by the internet and not parents anymore. So we're fighting more influences now with them. So we have to show them that hey, it's okay. You don't have to win every battle in life because some of the things you battling about is not even a battle; it's just your pride. And so one of the things I teach them is, hey, you got to drop the P off of pride and just ride. If you ever learn that, it'll make your life a lot better. Like
That's a
that
good.
pride to get you in a yeah, drop that P off and just ride.
I love that. Take the P off of
Yes,
pride, just ride.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm curious if
that's
you
what it is.
do you bring your faith into these conversations with the youth?
It depends on where they at spiritually.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm gonna tell you something about me, and this go back to ministry. I could be talking. I don't quote one scripture out the Bible. Never use the word Jesus, God, or anything. And people say, "Man, you very spiritual. Are you a pastor?" I'll be like, "No, I'm not a pastor." But even without me even using God's name, people all come to the same thing. You very spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
Now, don't get me wrong. I am coming from biblical with a lot of things. I'm just not putting that word out there, and people receive it. And long as it's reaching the people, then when they go in, I take it the biblical say, hey, this is not anything new. And I'll go ahead and pull them over the scripture. But I just be wanting to first get, because people, the things you were just talking about, people will get defensive about religion. They'll get defensive about race, sex, war, politics. So that's a thing that I'm learning. I like to have the difficult conversations that's uncomfortable for people to talk about, not just like argue about it. And when I was just in Africa about 2 months ago, really a month and a half ago, it's this organization. They use theatrics to open up difficult conversations, to talk about difficult matters. So they downplay it doing it through theatrics, but it be true stories and moving lines in it. And once people kind of calm, but they say, hey, but this happens in real life. Now they could kind of have that conversation because they saw it in a comical way first, but now people not defensive just because they hear certain words, they get defensive instantly. So now they diffuse and they be like, yeah, we do need to do better with that. So when the message with the theatrics, they show the problem, the behavior, but they also show the solution. But we don't never use the solution in real life. So now how do we take this from being theatrics in a skit and actually apply it to real life? And that's one of the things I'm gonna start doing too. Difficult conversations, use theatrics to open it up a little bit.
That's so interesting. So, where did you go in Africa?
I was in Nairobi, Kenya.
Okay, and did you go there for this reason?
Well, I went over there for vacation.
Okay,
I went over there also for criminal justice reform. I went over there for so many different things.
okay, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can see that working. And I also I really love the way you have this very soft ministry because people are triggered by words. People are triggered. I just left leaving a retreat. People are triggered by the word God. People are triggered. So what does that mean to you? Some people feel like they've been abused by that or abused by Jesus and the church. And so what you're doing is you're living it. You are living the, your gifts fully, and you are seeing people and listening to people. And it does make me think that maybe that's how Jesus was, and that's why everyone thought, you're divine, So they think you're a minister because you're being it, you're embodying it, which is much more important than quoting scripture and pointing to, ancient stories and whatnot and telling people different rules. So I think you're really embodying the ministry as a person.
Right. And that's good. And something else I'm thinking about, Miss Carol, one of the things, if we want to reach people, we can't Bible beat them. That's a word we use.
Yeah.
Sometimes we get strong in our faith and we just Bible beat people all day. Every other sentence they say, well, the scripture says this, and what the scripture and God said that, and Jesus did. Like, so it's like people feel like they get in Bible beat sometime. And we could still have that conversation with them. It's just everybody is not in the same space. It's I actually brought my Bible. This is my Bible from prison.
Oh,
It's
wow.
old. This still the Bible I use. This Bible here has been through more than some people have been through in their life right now. It- for real. And the reason I keep it is because this is one of the things that held me down in the hardest part of my life. And even though she's old, I'm not gonna put her down in her old age. She was good to me. So she's been good to me. I
She,
still use this same Bible.
yeah, so she was good to you, but you have enough discernment to know that you're not going to push her on other people, because they
Yes.
don't have the same relationship with her as you do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, can we go back for a minute and talk about how the person that you committed this crime against, that he came to visit you in prison?
No, it actually was a
Oh, it
she.
was a
It was
she.
a bunch of people. It's a bunch of people involved, but the main one and that testified and things came to see me because when I got a life sentence, she felt that it was wrong.
Okay.
She knew that it was wrong, and because she felt she was a part of that happening right there. And she actually went and seeked out my old college professor, and he reached out to me, and he was like, "Hey, you need to talk," because really, I didn't want to talk. And it was like, "Hey, I felt that it was wrong what happened in there," and people know what happened. Like you could read the papers, but the paper don't tell what really happened because we wouldn't have reached to that point where person want to talk about it. But that was big for me. But I was young too, and I was like, I'll be all right. And I haven't talked to that individual in years, and right now I believe that she's probably even upset with me because I haven't tried to reach out to her since I've been home. But I don't want a person to feel that I'm out here and I'm trying to do something wrong. So that's why I let it go in my life. But people say, "Hey man, y'all gonna cross paths in life one day. It's gonna happen." So man, just be ready. And I'll be ready for it. But that's just where I'm at on it. And actually, in the book, Breaking Chains, Building Futures, I make a mention about the work I do now, that individual is the one that planted those seeds in me. She was planting seeds that I didn't understand at that time, but it would take years that they manifest like that.
Yeah. I mean, really, the whole arc of your life seems like there have been seeds planted and that you were in these places at this time in order to learn this and have this experience so that you could really step into your potential and live the
Right.
life you're living now. Perhaps you don't look at your life like that. Do you look at it that there's kind of a divine hand in it?
I do because in every decision you could go the right way or the wrong way in life. And I believe that the message has been there, the assignment has been there, but I just was doing and this is what I do today. Whenever I lean on man's thinking, I usually make the wrong decision or a selfish decision. But when I lean on a higher power and God think of it in God's speed, I get to the right results. And that's just where I'm at with it. When in doubt now, I always lean to the higher power. In the past, I used to would just lean on my own thinking, but now when things be tough, I be like, you know what? I just take that high road now because I know what that carnal way of thinking a man could be, and it'll just get you in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. So when you're at a fork in the road, uh, how do you make your decision? Do you have a prayer practice, or do you hear a voice, or do you just know this is dark and this is light, and I'm going to the light?
Um, one of the things I do when things get crazy, I slow my brain and my life down for a second. It's like, hold on, let me get it together, and then let me feel it. Then I say to myself, what's really going on here? And I usually ask the why was going on, and I'd be like, you know what, God, you just work this out for me.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and that's like my prayer. God, you just work it out for me. I don't even go into a deep prayer because something I always share about my journey of going through the system. I always tell people that God did the time for me. I didn't serve the time. My body was just there. It was God serving the time for me. Because if I would have been serving it and thinking about it, I would have been bouncing off the wall. So it was a power greater than me that was toting me through there. And I always share that when we talk about the one set of footprints in the sand,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
that was me being carried because I know I didn't carry myself. Something greater than me carried me through that time. And I never take credit for it. They be like, man, you came out sane, you good, you doing this in the community. I'm like, man, that's all God. That's not me. Because I say if it was me, I don't know how I would have made it through it. So something greater than me got me through that.
That's amazing. What a story. Do you want to, how do you feel now about the unfairness of your sentence, and not just yours, but whatever else is happening today to people? How do you feel about that, those iniquities, and what can we do about that?
Um, so I consider myself a person in the criminal justice reform sphere. And now those are the things I write about. I'm actually about to do a op-ed right now, talking about sentencing disparities because they say that it doesn't matter, but race and zip code matters a lot of times in front of judges. They'll deny it, but it does take a fact. I remember years ago, like when I got sentenced, there was certain questions on like your pre-sentence investigation, like of course, it has your age. It asks, did you finish complete high school? It asks your race and stuff like that. So if you got somebody in front of you that's black, didn't finish high school, and oh yeah, and it asks was you employed at the time of the crime. So if you get somebody on there that they pre-sentence investigation show that they're here for a charge, they're black, they were unemployed, and they didn't finish high school, he good as gone.
I'll put you in a certain box
Yeah,
with an
it put you
eject
in a
button.
cer
Yeah.
yeah, and it's gonna be higher than other people. Right now, even and I mentioned that in the book Breaking Chains, Building Futures, blacks are and Latinos, they're suspended at higher rates than other races. Um, even when it comes to the probation, everything is race plays a part in the criminal justice system. And it's sad, so that's what I bring awareness to. I would not change it overnight one-handedly by myself, but maybe I could plant the seeds where some other warriors who come along could take the fight and leave a blueprint for them. And I think and you mentioned something earlier. I believe that there's a good nature in all of us. Usually it comes out when something super bad happens, but it be short-lived. Like a disaster. They go tornado come through and level a town. It's sad people out there. 9/11 had happened with the Trade Center. People like realize like you could just go to work and something crazy like that could happen. And I goodness is in people, but it's just them learned social values that we lean on. It depends on where you from. It starts in the household too. What's the chain of thought in there? I mean, all of that. But what's not in that conversation is God. What's not in there is spirituality. That's not a conversation. And I always talk about, and then we have fights with religions. And I tell people, look, it don't matter if it's the Bible, it's a Quran, it's the Torah, or any of these things. If we do what any of those good books tell us to do, this world would be a better place. Because they don't tell us to go do any bad thing. All those good books tell us to take high moral character and do good things. All of them do. So my thing is, but we'll get in a fight over religion. And I tell people, listen, don't mix up religion with spirituality.
Hmm.
Some people go through religion and you go through all the practice of what your religion do, but almost in your heart, and I hate to use the word like that, but sometimes you have people that be a church going atheist. You quote these scriptures, but in your life, you don't believe in anything because you worry about everything. Nothing you quote are you following right then. But with that spirituality is about your oneness with God. That's on you to work on. And I think we need to get strong in our spirituality. We could practice the religion all day, but where's your spirituality at in that point?
Completely agree with you. Do you sense that there's an awakening, a spiritual awakening happening with people? Or do you sense that the direction is going the other way?
I would say I don't feel that it's a spiritual awakening going on because right now the drug epidemic is crazy in America right now. I do believe with many things going on in the world, it's making people think about it And I believe that a spiritual awakening is on the horizon, but there's so many worldly distractions going on to people can't stay focused, whether it's between social media, whether it's wars. Our mind is just all over the place right now. And one of the things we're not thinking about is God. That's the last thing people thinking about.
Yeah, and I think the distractions are designed to keep us from thinking about God and from thinking about what's possible and to instead
Yeah.
be embroiled in distractions and divisions. Um, and and you're absolutely right. We bring ourselves back to the center, bring ourselves back to whatever your word is for God. I know that people have different words, great mystery, source, energy, whatever your word
Yeah.
is. But that centering ourselves in what is greater than us, a greater power. Oswald, your name, the power of God, centering ourselves
Yeah.
in the power of God. Then we have some leverage, and I just can see this. I can see what's possible. I can really see what's possible, even though all those distractions want us to see all the dark stuff. So I have hope, especially with people like you on the planet that are living it. You're the embodiment of spirituality. You're the embodiment of awakening. And as each individual is that, more people will want to be like you.
And so when they ask how you do it, I share it. I don't just go and push it on people, but I share it and I let them know I'm not perfect. I mean, I'm challenged because I say if you're doing the devil's work, he don't worry about you. It's when you striving to do the right thing, the devil gonna try to get in the way. He needs you to. He trying to get you off that path.
Yeah,
But yes, yes. At the end of the day, like I told you, I never take credit for anything. The only thing I take credit for, and I shouldn't do it that way, maybe, is the bad. But I tell all that's good that happened is of God.
that's
It's
amazing.
not me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is amazing. So, because I mean, you could be completely, really an embittered man, and you're not, and you're
Yeah.
you're choosing something else. And yet, there was some iniquities, there was some injustice. So it sounds like
Yeah.
you're working to improve the injustices in the system through the work you're doing.
I am, and also education. In the book, I talked about a couple incidents I had growing up where a teacher failed me because of the color of my skin. But at 6 years old, I didn't even understand prejudice or race or any of this things. So I didn't know what was going on, but what it did do is disconnected me from education early on.
Mm.
It would take years, yeah, because I was doing my work, but I got failed. I got in trouble with my mom. I can't understand what had happened. And I remember my mom telling me, well, the teacher failed you because she's prejudiced. To a 6 year old, I couldn't understand that word. And I was like, well, what's that? And she was like, she don't like you because of the color of your skin. Okay, why that? I'm young, I'm naive. And as I got older, I started to understand what race was about. And but even with that, I had to come to terms with it's about human, it's not about race, right? And that's why I always go to the end with nature. There was a time I will admit that I had issues with other races. I just felt because I was being dealt with unjustly. But life still comes down to choices. And I wouldn't have been in that ringer if I would have made better choices. So for me to alleviate a lot of them problems, I don't put myself in a predicament where I could be dealt with unjustly. But can we still be doing the right thing and be dealt with unjustly? Yes. But I understand and I get it. All we could do is pray for them that they grow. And then I hate to say it, sometimes some people is a lost cause.
Mm.
Some people are lost cause. It is what it is at that point. But do we give up on them? No, we don't. But we have to understand we're fighting an uphill battle, and those are the people really we got to get in to seek to save. Those right there, the lost cause.
Yes, yeah. I mean, that's one of the things that Jesus said. He came here for the lost causes. The indigent, the poor, the people who have been oppressed and put outside of society. So that's your ministry. Wow, wow. So a couple of things I want to ask you about. I mean, do you have a network that is doing the same work with you so that you're all kind of working together in doing this work? And then the other
Yeah.
question I had was, let me see if I can remember it now. Uh, let's just go with that one. Let's go, and the other one will come to me.
So in terms of networks, so I'm a busybody. So I'm tapped into many different networks. I mean, I got the faith-based community where I could tap into a lot of different areas. I got people in the criminal justice field where I could tap in. But my degree is in organizational leadership. So when it comes to a lot of leadership and business, that's a whole separate field. I got my change makers, the grassroots that I love, that's out in the communities doing things. I got those networks. I have I'm plugged in a lot of places. One of the things I tell people, it's about relationship building out here. It's about relationship building, and I do that in a lot of different areas to strive to not be one dimensional, not to get stuck in one ideology. I get around, and I just told some guys in a class I did in a prison yesterday. I say, meet some people that don't look like you, or talk like you, or think like you. There's nothing wrong with that.
Hmm.
I say it'll actually open your mind up. But if you sit around talking to people that only look like you and think like you, you're going to be stuck in this world.
Hmm. Yeah, you've been a silo.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, so you're still
yeah.
working in the prison. You're working in the prison and you're working with the high school kids.
So I don't work in a prison. I work in an office, but we have a contract where we go inside.
Yeah, that's what
So
I
two
meant.
of our staff
Yeah.
is inside. Yeah, it's good. Two of our staff is in there. I actually go into the prison to do classes.
Yeah.
And the people who work in there are actually I'm their supervisor. So I do go in there, and actually I go into the prison that I was released from. So the
Okay.
same prison that once held me, I turn keys at it now.
Wow. Wow,
Yes.
boy, that's a really interesting metaphor. I mean, like what locked you in before, you're able to completely walk through those doors now. That's amazing.
Yes.
Yeah. The other
Yes, it's
question did come to me. I was the book that your story is in, and it's called Breaking Chains, Building Futures: Pathways to Redemption, Education, Excellent. And it sounds like there's 14 justice impacted people who have their stories in there. Do you know those other people, or do you guys each independently have your own story?
we all each independently have our own story in there.
Okay, so you haven't connected in any
Yeah.
other way.
Right. We have, well, we all know each other now,
Yeah,
and we get together and things, but each story in there is each person's individual story, and it's diverse. I mean, it's a diverse group of people, and it's diverse with their life stories.
yeah,
It's good, but all of them, they come from a struggle somewhere with something. Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
A struggle something was somewhere with something, and they've all found success in life, which is really,
Yeah.
really amazing.
Your family now. So that is a network right now. So like just that author core right there, that's a network in itself now.
That's what I was wondering. That's what I was thinking.
Yes.
I could see these individual or people, other people who have these stories of redemption and growth beyond prison and growth beyond harboring anger and unfairness and resentment. You guys could all form a big nonprofit, really impact the world. But anyway, it's just a thought I have. So right now you're working individually, is that correct?
I'm working. So I'm actually a local government employee here in my area,
Okay.
and I do reentry here. I do have my own business. I do have my own nonprofit. From during the week, I'm a city employee, and one of the reasons I do the work I do, because we help men and women released from jail and prison here, is because I do get to impact lives. That's how I go into the prison like I do. So for me, I'm still stuck in it. Don't want to use the word stuck. I'm still doing this work because of the amount of lives I'm able to touch. And it's the
Sure.
people that I'm seeking to save. So it works out. It's a two for one for me.
Absolutely. I'm kind of curious, do you ever go into like elementary schools, so where the children are young before they really get tempted to make bad choices?
I haven't as in recent times since COVID. Since COVID, I haven't really broke back into there, but they're getting in trouble younger now. So I was starting with middle school on up, and they was like, "Man, you got to get them round." And they were saying by fourth or fifth grade, and these days it's too late.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So they saying you got to come away from the teens. You got to push down a little lower. I'm like, a younger age. I'm looking to do that, but again, if I'm invited to there, if they open the door for me, I come. And you will be amazed at how hard you have to fight to be able to help. The doors don't open that easy.
Really? Why do you think that is?
I don't know, the doors that have opened for me easier, like in my own community, most times, even the schools I went to is the hardest ones to get into. The ones here in my local area, it's hard to get into. Everybody else, all the way from elementary to universities in other states, open the doors. One of the hardest places to get in is my local area, but they say a prophet isn't recognized in his own
I was just
hometown.
thinking that. I was just thinking that that's
Yeah,
exactly the prophet is
yeah,
not recognized in his own hometown. What a strange thing
yeah,
that is about us. We have a way of already seeing people. We've already made a decision about people, which is what you were
yeah,
talking about happens in the court system. They've already decided based
yeah.
on your zip code, ethnicity, whatever, all this stuff that you go in this box. And you're an individual person, you're created by God. You're an individual person with gifts and a desire to be loved and seen like everybody else. There's no one should be put in any boxes without first being seen.
Sometimes it's not even putting you in the box. Sometimes people don't really want change
Oh,
because I'm gonna give you a prime example. You used the word recidivism earlier. Two quick scenarios. Recidivism. It don't matter how they count it, whether they called a new charge, they went back for a technical violation. I'm gonna use a hypothetical. Let's say 6 out of 10